Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Thursday, January the 24th, 2019. Good to have you all here for our second of two shows this week. As you can see, I'm once again sitting in my recliner near my window here. So we're trying this again. Hopefully, it doesn't seem like there are too many problems on Tuesday, but as always, if there are further issues, let me know. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it does the job, I guess. The lighting's more or less an issue, but we can, I guess, work with that and see what we can do with that. I'm trying some filters, see what we can do to adjust that if we have to keep doing it this way. All right, again, sorry about the late time. Things happen, as you all know. People ask me about it later. I'll just explain to them, but yeah. So with that in mind here, that's interesting. Wow. I never seen that icon appear before. I'm learning all kinds of things about this apparatus. All right. So without further ado, as always, as we start the show, let me remind you all of the ways in which you can interact and contribute to the show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight. 411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can always find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and then make sure that you like our fan page. All right. So a couple of things that we're going to be doing tonight. Obviously, we have our usual stuff that we go through as far as what we didn't do on Tuesday. We got some NFL stuff to get to. We got to look back at Championship Sunday, look ahead early to the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're not going to do a very comprehensive preview of the Super Bowl because that's still a week away. But we'll kind of just get into it a little bit, kind of set the stage for it and that kind of thing. So that'll be the NFL stuff. We got some college basketball. I thought there'd be more baseball. I mean, we talked the Hall of Fame on Tuesday, but there hasn't been. We're still in a holding pattern when it comes to free agency. Some big free agents still out there. Nothing big happening really. I mean, Pollock signed, but to me that's not that big of a deal. For the Dodgers, I mean that's a big deal, and I guess it's a big deal in that probably means they're out on Bryce Harper, but. We'll see what happens there. Harper Machado's still out there, so no news to talk about there. So I guess we can't really talk about it. So nothing really to talk about in baseball. So I guess I college basketball. We'll get into a little bit with that. We'll talk a little bit of NBA. We haven't done a lot of NBA recently, but there hasn't been a reason to. Well, last night, James Harden went off for 61 points at the Garden, which honestly was probably the least impressive 61 points I've ever seen a star, do at the Garden. Because honestly, we've seen Kobe do it, we've seen Jordan. I mean, you see all these players that have done it over the years, and it seemed impressive when they did it. And in this case, it just didn't seem impressive. We'll talk about that. We'll get into all that with James Harden stuff, and then we'll jump to entertainment and do the box office. And if we have time, TV highlights. Because honestly, you all know I outline the shows before I do them, and I try to get a sense of I write out what I'm going to do with the show every time we do the show, right? Well, the thing is, when I wrote out the show, I didn't write out anything for TV highlights because I wasn't sure if I had any. I haven't, other than sports and a few other things. In wrestling, I really haven't watched too much TV, so I don't really know if there's anything for me to mention. So if we have time, maybe I'll see what I can think of. That's pretty much why I didn't outline it, but we'll see. So that's what's coming up tonight. I promised you all the film award statistics. I only got halfway through them. I did not get them done the way I would have liked to have. So I have to bear with me at least one more show on that. I'll get them for you for Tuesday. Next week we have a pretty quiet week. Nothing earth-shattering, really big. Tuesday we'll go over the Royal Rumble. We'll go over Raw, SmackDown, kind of get into all that wrestling stuff, see where we're at with the WrestleMania build as far as wrestling stuff goes. And we'll talk – there's a few other things from wrestling we'll talk about too. People ask me if we're going to do Ronda Rousey tonight, talk about what's going on with her. Some of this other stuff like Undertaker not working Mania this year. And we'll get to all that stuff on Tuesday. In fact, we might not even get to it on Tuesday. I might put it off because some of it might just be speculatory at this point. So we'll leave that for Tuesday, maybe even beyond that. We'll probably do our official Super Bowl preview on Tuesday. I don't think we'll wait till Thursday, but I could change my mind on that, so don't go quote me on that. And obviously we'll split the topics up between Tuesday and Thursday like we've been doing. Any other? I mean, so basically, anything breaks in baseball, we'll talk about. Any college basketball stuff, we'll talk about it. I think Tuesday though, right now, we'll probably do a lot of the wrestling stuff. We'll do college basketball. And we'll probably do the Super Bowl preview on Tuesday, and then everything else will probably leave for Thursday, I'd imagine. So, nothing big coming up next week. Next Thursday, though, keep in mind is the deadline. Next Thursday is the deadline for the in the Spotlight Film Award winning ballots and for the live award nominee submissions. So if you'd like to participate in either one of those, you got till next Thursday to get those in at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, I know we're always usually late, but I say 9 o'clock because that's supposed to be the deadline. That's supposed to be when we start. So if we happen to start late, then I guess you get an extra hour, but at that deadline. But so that's an important deadline to remember next week. People have been asking me about the film awards and whether we're going to move them because there's people notice these things like, oh yeah, Mike comes on Tuesday, but he's not on the show on Thursday. So what does that mean for the awards? You have the awards set for a Thursday. Currently, the awards are set for Thursday, February the 7th. They could change. I don't know. Honestly, I probably wouldn't change it because I don't know if the votes will all be taken care of by then. Look what happened with the nominations, how late we started. So I honestly don't think we will be changing the date, but you never know. One never knows. But right now, just know it's set for Thursday, February 7th, and I don't anticipate changing it. So obviously, like I said, next week's a pretty normal week on the show. The week after, obviously, with the film awards, we'll have one show that kind of has everything else, and then the film awards will take up its own show. And then after that, that's when things are going to really get going as far as the changes and everything go, because I wanted to wait till after the film awards. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing them so early this year. So we'll get into some stuff. We'll talk more about everything that's going to be going on next weekend and the weeks to come. So all right, so let's get down to business here. I'm expecting my wife to chime in with the let's get down to business crack again. And by the way, thank you all for the mail, because now she's going to think that she made some huge level of impact with like a 3-minute little derailment of the show on Tuesday. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Yeah. Well, okay. She thinks it was gold. She thinks it was gold. I know when things are gold. That might have been close to gold, maybe not necessarily gold, but I'm just busting her chops. That's okay. It was pretty good. It was entertaining. People liked it. That's all we need to know. I can't get in the habit. I can't. Okay. I can't get in the habit of talking to her off air because sometimes people can hear her, sometimes you can't. So I shouldn't be doing that. Anyway, let's not derail anything too much here. Let's get right into things here because we got a few things to do. And there she goes. And we'll start off in the NFL because people have been waiting for my thoughts on the mess that was. Some things. Well, okay. Let's not say a mess because Sunday wasn't a mess. Both games were incredibly dramatic. And look, we as I've talked about, and I talk about every year when we go into the NFL playoffs. Really the football season's over after divisional weekend because you're down to 2 games and that's it, right? And both games suck, then you're done, into the Super Bowl, and if that game sucks, you're done. So it's very difficult when you get to that point. You just keep hoping you get good games. Well, look, you got 2 incredibly great games. Granted, the first half of those games weren't very well played, I would say. They were very ugly at times, especially the Patriot-Chief game. Very, very ugly at times. But, once it got going, especially towards the end, look what happened that fourth quarter of that Patriot game. With the back and forth scoring, I think it was like 30. I'm looking up the totals right now. I think it was over 30 points between the two teams was scored in the fourth quarter. It was crazy. Like every chance, it's like every time somebody went down, they scored. It was just an incredible sight to behold. And we'll get back to the Patriot game in a minute because we got to talk about the first game first. And that game, this is where I feel bad because okay, as a fan, you're like, wow, you got true great games. And as far as games go, that might have been the best championship Sunday you've had ever. To have two overtime games, to have that kind of drama, even if the first halves weren't necessarily pretty, they were still great games, and that's all you can hope for because we've had some really bad championship Sundays. We've had some really bad Super Bowls, but when you get down to that few games, you want these games to be good, and they were both good. So and early on in that Saints game, you didn't think it was going to be a good game. They get out to a 13-0 lead, and then the Rams answer with 10 points of their own. And a lot's going to be made about the call late in that game. And look, by now it's been dissected to death. That call should have been made. The officials admitted it. There have been, you got people in New Orleans that are buying billboards to try to, petition for the game to be replaced. Because there is a clause in the NFL law and the NFL rules that you can replay. The commissioner has the power to go back and replay that. But that's not going to happen, and here's why. Because if you do that, then, you can go back through history, and everybody's like, why didn't you use it then? And then they're going to want that every other time this happens. So you can't set that precedence. You can't do that. But people know that it's there, and that's why they want him to do it. It was a horrendous call, that they're not really letting them answer for as much as they should. But it was a horrendous call. They've admitted it. Sean Payne had every right to be upset. The team had every right to be upset. And here's the thing that bothers you if you're a fan, and not even just the Saints, but if you're a fan in general. All right, you don't want to call to decide a game, okay? But if it's a blatant call, it needs to be called. And that was a blatant call. It was a blatant call. Because here's the thing. Not only was it a pass interference, it was a helmet to helmet. There's two penalties on the play. But here's the other thing. Given where they are on the field, that's the game right there. Even if they don't score in the end zone, they're going to kick a field goal. That's the game. And that's what bothers you as a fan because, look, you give all credit in the world to the Rams. They made the most of it. They cashed in their opportunity. They took it to overtime, and they won the game on a field goal. But the Rams, outside of their fan base, it's always going to be looked at. Let's say they win the Super Bowl next Sunday. It's going to be an asterisk next to their name because people are like, well, in my mind, you shouldn't have been there. Saints should have won the game. It should have been the Saints and the Patriots. That's going to mar what they did, and that's what sucks about it. Because here the other part of this too is the Saints should have never been in that position. So that's why you have people with the perspective, well, if the Saints got that call, they would have won the game. But here's the other thing. That call should not have defined that game because the Saints had a 13-point lead in the first quarter. And they have 13-10 lead at the half. And then it's back to 20-10 as they go into the fourth quarter. They blew it. They blew it. That's what happened. They blew it. And, Sean Payton's clock management, some of his play calling down the stretch was awful. That doesn't get talked about nearly as much. And, that's ultimately what led to the Rams getting back in the game. It wasn't overly impressive with the Rams. And I think you got to be really worried about the Rams against the Patriots. I really do. The Rams have not played very well. There's nothing they've done in this postseason has made you feel confident in them. The Rams have not looked the same since the Saints beat them in their building in the midway point of the season. They have not looked the same. They just haven't. And that scares you. Their offense just is not getting it done. They have a running back controversy now. C.J. Anderson's doing more than Todd Gurley. And, okay, it's great to have two running backs, but, I almost feel like McVay doesn't even know what one he wants to use half the time. So, I mean, yeah, you got the great running attack, but you're also going to be facing the greatest head coach in NFL history who is going to find a way to stop the run and make Jared Goff beat him. That's what he's going to do, folks. He sees what the running game has done for the Rams over these in these playoffs, because that's really the reason the Rams have won. They've been able to move the football with their running game, because Jared Goff has not been good. 25 for 40, 297 and a touchdown. That's okay. That's not great, especially by this day and age standards. It's not great. And if they stop the running game and put all the pressure on Jared Goff, I don't know if I like the Rams' chances. I really don't. Despite what Goff did early in the season when he was, on a pretty big high, he has not looked like that in a very long time. And that's something. I mean, could he do a complete 180? Sure he could. But honestly, I don't know if I see it. I don't know if he's a good enough quarterback. He's the thing about what people need to realize about the Rams, okay? And I don't want to take anything away from, because I believe the Rams are a really good football team that just somehow lost their momentum and lost their way here at some point in the season. And that's happened before. That's happened before. Here's the thing, though, about the Rams, okay? Because we saw this last year, too. They had a great regular season. They laid an egg in the playoffs. The thing about the Rams is Jared Goff is a serviceable NFL quarterback, okay? He's a serviceable quarterback. He is not a great quarterback. He is not an elite quarterback. He does not fit in with the Bradys and the Rodgers and I don't even think he's Nick Foles. I don't. He is, what you see with him is what you could see from a lot of other guys around the league that, are just serviceable and just get the job done. So why was he so successful at times in these past few years? Because he has a great head coach. He has a quarterback whisperer as a head coach. And as we know, sometimes with the right coach, you can look much better than you actually are. And that's the reason why Goff has had the success that he's had. And now I think the league's kind of catching up to him. And, now it's you're seeing him for what he is. And thankfully the Rams have a running game. But that running game is probably going to be taken away at the Super Bowl. The Patriots aren't not a great defensive team. But as we've known over the years, they find ways to get it done. And I think that's what they'll focus on, is stopping the running game and put all the pressure on Jared Goff to throw the football. See, I told you I'd give you a little bit of a Super Bowl early setup here, and that's what I'm doing. But the Rams did not look overly impressed. They just found a way to get it done. And look, the Saints, again, the call should have been made. And it did lose in the game. In theory, it did. But they shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. And the Saints did not play well either. The Saints did not play well in these playoffs. They should have lost to the Eagles. And, I mean, Drew Brees did not look great. He didn't. So the Saints didn't look good either. These two NFC juggernauts that we were talking about so much in the regular season just did not look great in these playoffs. Is it because they got burnt out? Is it because there's injuries that we didn't know? Who knows? I mean, in the Rams' case, I think a lot of the league just caught up to Jared Goff, but I think it might be even more than that. Maybe it was Gurley's injury, maybe it was the loss of momentum. I don't know. But neither team looked the same down the stretch. The Rams had started the week, the Saints beat them, and for the Saints, it just kind of started late in the season. Maybe it started with the Cowboy game when the Cowboys shut them down. Maybe that's when it started. But, one looked the same. And you saw in that game. And look, the Rams move on. And again, people are going to always remember the Rams as being the team that probably shouldn't have been there, but they're there now. They're in the Super Bowl, and they're going to play the Patriots. The Patriots who have had a massive chip on their shoulder in these playoffs. And have made it their personal mission to prove a point. And they have. You saw what they did against the Chargers, and now you see what they did against the Chiefs. Their offense is churning. Their defense has, again, they don't. We know that they don't do a lot on defense. I mean, we know the defense isn't great, but they find ways to get it done because they have a great head coach, the best adjustment coach in the NFL, the best coach in the NFL, period. And they've seen Sony Michel get going. That's helped them. They have a running attack. And Brady, look, did he look great? No, but he's finding a way to get it done because that's Tom Brady. And even though he didn't look great, he still threw for 348 yards and a touchdown. And it was 38 points in the fourth quarter that were scored. And if you include the 6 points in the overtime, that's 44. That's crazy. That's crazy, especially when the game started 14-0 at the half. Crazy. And look, I think this, look, we all know the Chiefs did the right thing by cutting Kareem Hunt. We all know they did. But it left them vulnerable. And the running game was a missing component for the Chiefs the whole way down the stretch, especially in that game against the Patriots. Because the Patriots took away a lot for the Chiefs passing game, because that's what they do. They focus in on what they think is your strength at that time, and they take it away. That's why they're going to take away from the Rams the running game. The running game's the strength right now. For the Chiefs, the passing game was the strength, and they took it away. And they made sure that there had to be a push on the running game, and the Chiefs didn't have much of a running game. The fact that the Chiefs were in the position they were in is a testament to how talented they are. And let's be honest, the Chiefs' defense was terrible this year, and it just didn't get the job. That's why they made the change they did. They needed to. But that's ultimately what lost them the game, too. Lost them a lot of games this year. A few games this year, I should say. Not a lot, because they only lost 4 games. Look, the Patriots went into a tough place to play, and they got it done. We all said the only way that you see another team getting to the Super Bowl is to keep that game out of New England. Well, the game was out of New England. They still won. And, look, I give the Chiefs credit. I give Mahomes credit. They answered bell for bell late in that game. They did not give up. They played as hard as they could. I thought Andy Reid had a good game plan for the most part. Late, I thought he made a mistake by not calling timeouts when the defense was clearly sucking wind. But that'd probably be the only true mistake that he's made, and that's a lot because he's made some mistakes in the past. But I didn't think he had a bad game. I think the Patriots found a way. You just never felt like the Patriots were not going to find a way to win that game. And I've said this before. Please, folks, please, if you do not like the New England Patriots and you do not want them to get to the Super Bowl, please stop giving them ammunition. Please stop writing them off and claiming that they're bad and they're not. That this is the year that they fall apart. Because every single time people say that, look what happens. Until Brady and Belichick retire, this thing is not going down. This team is going to be in it every year until they both are out of the game. This is their 3rd straight Super Bowl. We all know what they've done. It's crazy what they've done. And honestly, I'm not ready to make an official prediction, but they have to be the favorite. With the way the Rams have played, and with the way they played, they have to be and given their reputation, they have to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. So, and look, were there some bad calls in the Patriot-Chief game? Yeah, but nothing blatant like the Saint Ram game. But look, now these games are over. It was a great championship Sunday. It's unfortunate that some bad calls had to mar it. But if you just look at the games in terms of drama, in terms of competition, 2 overtime games, look, you can't ask for better. You really can't. And now let's hope you get a similar Super Bowl without the bad calls, of course. So now you get the Patriots and the Rams, a rematch of the 2001 Super Bowl, the Super Bowl that started it all for New England. Which, wouldn't that be a bookend if you've ever seen one? Let's say the Patriots win this game, just win the Super Bowl. And that's the last Super Bowl they win in the Belichick-Brady era. Wouldn't that be crazy that the last one they win is where it started? This legacy, what they won the first one? Just saying that. My wife's giving me the dirty look. Look, I don't like the Patriots. I'm just saying from a storyline standpoint, it fits. It does fit. But we're seeing. No, my wife just asked if both teams were in the first one. The Patriots, the first Super Bowl that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick won together was against the Rams in 2001.
Oh, well, maybe let's make it the first Super Bowl against the Rams if they lose.
She's okay. So I'm sorry, folks. I had to take a moment to explain to her what I was talking about. But yeah, it'd be a bookend if you think about it. If that's the last one they win in that era, it was a bookend. But anyway, we'll make an official prediction next week. But now we have the Patriots and the Rams, and on paper, look, I think as an early look at this game, as I said, you have to really be a little nervous about the Rams because of how they played. And you know that they're going to zero in on the running game and stopping it. If they do that, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Jared Goff. Jared Goff's going to have to win this game for the Rams. He's going to have to win this game for them, much like Nick Foles had to win this game for the Eagles last year against the Patriots. They're going to make the quarterback win this game. So that's really going to be the key for the Rams in this game. And defensively, they're going to have to get after it. And they're going to really have to try to rattle Tom Brady, because that's the only way you ever beat Tom Brady is by rattling his cage. And they're going to have to really focus too, I think, very important, very, very important, on at least limiting what Sony Michel's done, because he's been a tough customer the last 2 weeks. That's been a very big key to the Patriots doing what they've done in the last 2 weeks. So, again, making an official prediction next week, but I gotta give you some early ideas and thoughts on what I think about the game. As of right now, I would say this. I don't know. I think if the Rams win it, it will be a nail biter. If the Patriots win, I think it'll be a blowout. And I'll get more into detail about the game and all that's going to go into it next week, obviously. So, Patriots-Rams for the Super Bowl, and should be good, hopefully. Hopefully they get as good of a game as they got with these games over the past weekend. So, all right, so that's the NFL stuff. Again, we'll do official Super Bowl preview next week. Before we jump to college basketball, I want to briefly do the NBA thing that I mentioned. We were going to do the James Harden story. Obviously, James Harden goes off for 61 points last night at the Garden, which, you all know, everybody knows the story about the Garden. Every big player wants to have a big moment there, but nobody wants to play there anymore. Nobody wants to go play for the Knicks. They don't want to play their whole career. They want to just go there, have their big game, and then go out and run off in the sunset, which, I guess if you're a fan, if you're somebody that wants the Knicks to start getting better, it kind of angers you a little bit, but it is what it is. But I've seen many, many great performances at the Garden, and that one had to be one of the least impressive. And in case for those of you that are not aware, what the Rockets are doing, Clint Capella and Chris Paul are both injured. And in their absence, James Harden has essentially been the entire offense. Gordon maybe a little bit, 20 points here and there, but really it's been James Harden. And basically, James Harden has been just bringing the ball up and basically just no passes whatsoever, just taking shots. In fact, I think there was a stat where James Harden has scored like 250 or 60 some odd points or something along those lines, and they're all unassisted, which I think is a crazy stat. Here's the thing. You can't win games. You really can't win games for too long that way, and you definitely can't win games in the playoffs that way. But Houston has to do that right now because they don't think they have anybody else. And, and this is the way that it's going to be until they play, until Chris Paul comes back and Clint Capella comes back. Now, if it continues when those two come back, I think you have an issue, a major issue. But I mean, I still think it's an issue because these guys are never going to get any better if you don't involve them in the offense. And the funny thing about this is Mike D'Antoni apparently hated iso ball when he coached the Knicks when Carmelo was there, but now apparently he's doing iso ball to keep the Rockets afloat with James Harden. It's kind of weird, but look, I don't like it. I understand why they feel it's necessary, but I don't like it. It to me it just looks bad. It doesn't make anybody better. I mean, what's going to happen? Let me ask you a question. What happens if Chris Paul and Capella were done for the year? Heaven forbid. I mean, what are you going to do in the playoffs when guys actually start D'ing it up and James Harden does what he's done in every postseason, which is kind of fade to the background because he's got better defenses on him. And these guys have to step up, and they're not ready to step up because you wasted time in the regular season developing them because you never passed the ball to them. What's going to happen then? And the one thing about Harden, and the reason why his great performances never looked that impressive to me, is because he misses a ton of shots. He misses a lot of shots from three. A lot of it's just him being fouled and being at the free throw line. It's not like what Kobe did. It's not like when Jordan did, where it's just like, God, they were on fire. It just never looked overly impressive. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. So, yeah, it wasn't I mean, for him, I'm sure it was a moment, like a lot of guys like to have in the Garden, but to me, it just didn't look overly impressive. It just never I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, wow. I don't like. I'm not even enthralled with it. I'm just kind of like, all right, okay. And here's the other thing too. It was kind of expected based on the way he's been playing. We all knew he was going to have at least a 50-point game in the Garden. We all saw that coming. So maybe that's part of it too. Is that there's an expectation. He just merely fulfilled it. But I don't know. I just this didn't overwhelm me. It didn't make me like stand up and take notice. You know what I'm saying? So people asked my thoughts on it, what I felt about it, and that's what I felt. I just wasn't overly. I just didn't think it was an overly impressive performance. So, but we'll see what happens. I think there's talk that Chris Paul might play. I think what's next game is tomorrow. I think he might play. We'll see if he plays. If he plays, I'd expect their game plan to change a little bit. Maybe less reliant on Harden. Here's the other thing too. You can't keep up at this pace because by the end of the season, Harden's going to be sucking wind, and then he ain't going to get anything out of him. So, but we'll see. It's obviously been very impressive what he's been able to do over these stretch of games. But again, in terms of performance last night, it just did not look overly impressive to me, like some other performances I've seen in the Garden. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that before we jump into some college basketball. And now we will jump into some college basketball now we got that out of the way. And there wasn't a whole lot this week. I mean, obviously you had following Duke losing to Syracuse, which was a big win for Syracuse. Syracuse has really helped themselves out over the last couple of weeks and stabilized things. Now they're sitting at 5-1 in the ACC. So they continue at this pace. They're not going to have to worry about about being a bubble team. But Duke loses to Syracuse when they're shorthanded. They shorthanded again without Trey Jones at Virginia. And they find a way to win. That was a big win for them. A big win for them that they needed at home. And they went against Pittsburgh, so they've kind of stabilized. Louisville's had some big wins. They beat NC State. Michigan State has finally been looking like themselves. They beat Iowa 82-67 earlier tonight. Again, Louisville just doing really well. They're 5-1 in the ACC. They've kind of come on over, and I kind of thought they would because Chris Mack's that good of a coach. You've seen Tennessee become the new number one, and they looked impressive in overtime against Vanderbilt. Who gave them a really good run at their and their building are always tough. The other night, and Tennessee won that. Buffalo lost their game, but that shocked me. I would be shocked they would lose another one, but we've seen Houston kind of rise. They're now in the top 20. Let's see if there's any other big things. Kentucky had a couple big wins. Texas Tech, Kansas State probably got a big win over Texas Tech. Auburn's been kind of falling apart, which shocks me because I really liked Auburn early in the year, but they've kind of going through a rut here. Villanova has really, really stabilized, and they're now sitting at 15-4 and 6-0 in the Big East, so they're very much in fine shape. I mean, if you look at this week, the big story is probably what Duke kind of beating Duke, doing what they did to Virginia. Kansas is kind of taking on the chin a little bit. North Carolina, the big win over Virginia Tech. So there's been some movement in the ACC, but you're seeing Boston College somehow beat Florida State, which Florida State's completely fallen off. Some of these teams that did well early are falling off, but that happens every year. I mean, we're seeing what we all expected to see in the ACC. But I think the big talk was what Duke did to Virginia, Wisconsin beating Michigan, which they desperately needed to keep their tournament hopes alive. Tennessee rising to number one. Kansas losing to West Virginia, which West Virginia had not won a conference game until that point, was huge. Auburn struggles. Louisville's rise. Buffalo, that loss was a big one. That would probably be the big stories from this week. And as it stands right now, another week, I think not next week, but the week after, we'll go into the bubble watch and start looking at the bubble and see where we're at. I think as of where we're standing right now, generally speaking, the ACC is exactly what we thought it would be. With some of the teams that we thought could do better than expected, doing better than expected, like Louisville. The Big 12 is down. The SEC is not as good as we thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit better. I thought Florida would be better. Some of these other teams like Ole Miss, Mississippi State, I thought would be LSU, and that would be better. They're not. It's really been Tennessee that's been the shining star. Auburn's already fallen off. Pac-12 is bad like we thought it would be. The Big Ten is maybe a little bit better than we thought. The Big East is about on par with last year. So really, it's all about the ACC. The ACC is the only one that's living up to its hype, and that's the only conference that you see like elite basketball night in and night out. So I think that's kind of led to like a down kind of year in college basketball. I mean, there's still some good teams, but the conferences themselves aren't very deep outside the ACC. So it's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is this year. So I think what we're seeing materialize, you're going to see a lot of teams like the Buffaloes, the Houstons, Furman was hot early in the year. We're going to see a lot of unexpected teams that maybe aren't necessarily power conference teams, or they're lesser known in those conferences, kind of surprising people and doing some things in the tournament. I think you're going to see that. Because some of these teams that are going to get in to the NCAA tournament from the power conference, like some of the weaker Big 12 teams or weaker Big 10 or whatever, Big Pac-12, whatever, teams that get in, they're not as good as a Buffalo. They're not as good as even a Furman. They're not as good as a Houston. So you're going to see those teams get knocked off, and I think that's going to send some. It's going to make for an interesting tournament. What's coming up over the next week in terms of big games? Let's see. Syracuse, Virginia Tech on Saturday night should be good. I think Virginia Notre Dame will be interesting, but Notre Dame's really strong. Notre Dame can really use that win. Let's see. Pittsburgh, Louisville is interesting because Pittsburgh hasn't been too bad. Kansas, Kentucky in the SEC Big 12 Challenge will be a great game on Saturday. Good litmus test. I shouldn't say LSU isn't as good as I thought because they are 15-3, so they're holding up there in the bargain. But that's outside of LSU, Tennessee, maybe Kentucky. Auburn was there, but they're kind of falling off, and they got a big game against Mississippi State Saturday. So, I mean, I guess SEC isn't too bad, but it's not as good as I thought it would be. Let's see. Villanova Seton Hall is always a good game. That's on Sunday. Monday, you got Duke and Notre Dame. Tuesday, Virginia and NC State, Kansas and Texas. Not a whole lot of big games. We go Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State's falling on tough times. They're out of top 25. Kentucky goes into Vanderbilt, which is always a tough place to play. You saw Tennessee experience that. Next Wednesday, Marquette, Butler. Ole Miss, Florida needs that win. Virginia Tech, Miami. Villanova, DePaul could actually make a run here. They're 11-7, 3-4 in the Big East. I mean, beat Villanova. That might give them a good start. Um, yeah, not a lot of big games this week. Only a few. So a very uneventful week. We're kind of in the middle of a mid-season lull. There's a few good games, but I think after this week, this week you'll see some things pick up as you go into February and the last month of the season. Because I tell you, college basketball's blink and you miss it. But the last month of the season, as you go towards the tournament, got rivalry week and all that stuff. Things will definitely pick up. This next week, though, not a whole lot of big games. Not a whole lot of big games. So, not to kind of rush through college basketball. There's not much else to talk about. Again, the big stories, but Duke being up and down, the ACC being what it is, Kansas having some struggles, Louisville doing what it's doing, improving. Tennessee rising to 1. Those are among the big highlights. So, I mean, it's been some interesting developments, but things are kind of still slow. Again, the next week will be pretty uneventful. But after that, I would imagine things will really start to pick up. And then, obviously, once we start talking the bubble almost every week, things will really, because you'll be kind of like, okay, these games, you need these games to be able to to get in. You start talking about quality wins and all that stuff, and that's when things really start to amp up and be really, really interesting. So, all right, so we covered, I think, everything we had to cover in sports. We did the James Harden thing. We did college basketball. We did the NFL. So now let's jump to entertainment. Let's jump to this week's box office discussion and the box office beat. Let's see. Obviously, we had the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, so we had 3-day numbers and 4-day. So the winner of the 3-day and 4-day was Glass. Glass did incredibly well, 40.3 million over the 3-day, 46.5 million over the 4. Despite the storms in the Northeast and everything, it did well. So good for them. I didn't expect that, so it overperformed in my eyes. $20 million budget, mind you, so good for them. Still not sure how they got that budget to be that well, but and then you had movies like some of the holdovers from previous weeks. The Upside, which dropped from first to second, pulled in 18.3 million over the 4 days, 15 million for the 3. Aquaman dropped from second to third, 10.1 million for the 3-day, 12.7 million for the 4. Shockingly, Dragon Ball Super Brawley, which was like a limited release, only opened in 1,230 theaters, had 9.8 million for the 3-day, and 11.9 million for the 4. So that was something that wasn't even on my radar. It did much better than expected. So kudos to Fun Studio for that. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse continued to do very well. Came in fifth, I should say, for the 3-day with 7.5 million, 10.1 million for the 4-day. And after that, you had A Dog's Way Home dropping from third to sixth with 7.1 million for the 3-day, and it put in 9.9 million for the 4. And then you had Escape Room drop from fifth to seventh with 5.6 million for the 3-day, 6.8 million for the 4, and then it dropped off. Mary Poppins beat it for the 4-day numbers. Mary Poppins pulled in 5.2 million for the 3-day. 7.1 million for the 4th, so got a nice boost for Martin Luther King Day. And then after that, everything else was under 5 million. Bumblebee came the closest to 5 million with 4.7 million, but Bumblebee did get over 5 million for the 4-day with $6 million. So Martin Luther King Day did help some of these movies, which it usually does. I'm really surprised. If you had asked me a week ago, remember I had set the stage, I said you wouldn't be surprised to see some of these movies not do particularly well because of this, the weather, and they did well. I mean, if you had a movie made 46 million over the 3-day weekend or the 4-day weekend, that's very, very good. So I mean, really, this is a positive box office weekend. Glass overperformed in my eyes. Some of these holdovers, The Upside, Aquaman, held up better than I expected. Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse did about what I thought it would. A Dog's Way Home, Escape Room, Mary Poppins Return maybe did about as well as I expected them to. So all in all, this is a very, very positive box office. And then Dragon Ball doing what it did, only 1,200 theaters was a crazy, crazy good thing. So all in all, this is a very good, positive box office Martin Luther King weekend. One of the better ones in recent memory, I think. So when you look at the 3-day or the 4-day numbers, very good. I have very little to say with it. It's all positive. So good. You get the box office a lot of praise here. It had a good week. Probably the best week it's had this year. So, and now you have a couple movies this weekend that the studios are hoping are going to do really, really well for late January, because now it's kind of like, okay, you're enough distance has passed from the holidays. You're starting to move into February, you know, and now you start to see bigger and bigger movies will be returning to the fold, and you're more willing to put a bigger movie out there. And you have two big movies this coming weekend. And you have some awards movies, some Oscar movies expanding their releases too. So you got to keep an eye out for that here. And that will continue over the next few weeks as we approach the Oscars. So check your local theater listings for those films. You know what they are: Bohemian Rhapsody, Vice, those kind of movies that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. So the two big releases this weekend. The biggest release is The Kid Who Would Be King from Fox, a fantasy film will be opening in 3,521 theaters. Starring Rebecca Ferguson and Patrick Stewart, already made $1.1 million overseas. I'm not expecting a lot from it. I think they probably should have held this movie for winter break, but nonetheless, here it is. And I'm thinking, I could see it pulling in around 2025. If it was around the time kids have breaks, it might pull in a little bit more. But I fully expect Glass to hold number one this weekend, probably around 25 million or so, be just enough to beat out The Kid Who Would Be King. So wouldn't surprise to see it make The Kid Who Would Be King make less, because I just don't know if there's enough interest in the movie, but we'll see. We'll see. This might have been a good early fall release, or been better just to wait for winter break, but whatever. The second biggest release is Serenity, a thriller from Evian, opening in 2,561 theaters, starring Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, and Diane Lane. So a great cast here. R-rated. It's a thriller. Getting some good. I mean, it's got some good response. I wouldn't be surprised to see this movie maybe do a little bit better than The Kid Who Would Be King. I could see Kid Who Would Be King doing like 12, 13, maybe underperforming, and Serenity maybe pulling about 16, 17. That's how I could see it working out. But either way, I think Glass is going to be number one this weekend. So my predictions, Glass, number one, I'm going to say about 25, 26 million. Number two, I'm going to say Kid Who Would Be King, but don't be surprised if it underperforms. It only pulls in about 12, 13 million. But I'm gonna say Kid Who Would Be King. Let's say around 18 to 20 million. Let's go in that range. Serenity, I'm gonna say around 15, 16 million. Again, you gotta keep an eye on the Oscar movies expanding. You don't know how they're gonna land. I'm not making any stern predictions for them because it's too hard to figure that out. But keep an eye on that. That'll be a storyline. In these next few weeks. I think you'll see the upside probably around 9, 10 million. Aquaman around 7 or 8. Dragon Ball probably crashed because obviously it was more of a limited thing, and it was probably, if anything, even if it wasn't, it'd be front loaded anyway. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse around maybe 6.5, and then Dogs Way Home around 5 million. I think everything else would be under 5 million. I mean, yeah, maybe something like Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book, Vice, or something like that might maybe get close to 5 million, but I don't see any of those awards movies, Oscar movies, jumping enough to get over 5 million. So we'll see if they do that over the next few weeks, but I don't anticipate it, to be honest, because a lot of these movies have had big enough releases over the next few weeks to be seen, so I don't know if that will happen. So that's how I see this weekend's box office going. It should be an okay weekend, not a great one, not as good as last week, but it's not a holiday weekend and such. So I don't expect it to. I just don't expect it to be no holiday boost, no big vacation time, and no vacations from school or anything like that. So I don't expect it to be a huge weekend at all. So that's how I see this weekend going. Not a great weekend, but a good enough one, I would say. And then next weekend, you only have one new release, Miss Bala, an action thriller, opening in 2,000 theaters, and that's the only new release. Again, you probably see further expansion of it, some of the Oscar movies. But other than that, you won't see anything else. It's Super Bowl weekends. It's just not usually a big weekend at the box office, so that would kind of be a quiet, lull kind of weekend. Might be one of the worst weekends of the year for the movies. And then the week after that, things will start to pick up. And that, from that point on, it's pretty much um, from that point on, it's pretty much a big every weekend there'll be something of note. Right on through probably late summer, early fall. So things will start to really pick up after that. So that's the box office story. That's this week's box office beat. I know that was quick, but there's just wasn't a lot to talk about. I mean, this wasn't a whole lot of storylines. So, I mean, if there was, but there wasn't a whole lot to talk about in regards to them. So, I mentioned TV highlights. I've been, during the show, I've been trying to think, do I have any? Because I haven't really gotten too much TV. I have lots, a lot of I've been saying it the last couple of weeks. I probably should just do this segment on Tuesday because maybe Michael will have something to offer. I've been trying to think. I'm behind on all my usual shows. I haven't had time. There's been a lot of, between the weather with shoveling and everything, and watching. When I am inside, I've been watching a lot of sports, football, college basketball. I watched a lot of movies recently. So I haven't watched a lot of TV. So I don't think I have anything. A lot of shows are on hiatus, and what shows that I like that are on hiatus. Some of my favorite shows came back. I just haven't had a chance to really catch up to them. So I really don't. I really don't have anything. I put it in the show description. I probably shouldn't have put it in the show description because when I put it in, I'm like, I don't even know if I have anything. I shouldn't put it there, but I'm gonna put it there anyway in case I think of something during the show. I didn't think of anything, so I guess I'm just gonna wait. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do this segment on Tuesday, and hopefully if I don't have anything, hopefully my Mike will have something because he's able to watch more than I am, and he watches more things than I do. So my apologies. I don't have a pick segment to offer you because I don't really have any TV shows that I really watch that I would recommend. So I guess we're gonna have to bypass that segment. My apologies on that. So if that's the case, we're done. So yeah, we're done for the night. As always, given that, as always, the show might be over. It's not me not to stop interacting with our show. Continue to have your voice heard, send us your comments and feedback and questions about the show, discussing the show, topic ideas, and making news items related to the show that you want us to. Topic ideas or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover, reactions, comments, opinions, and things we talked about in the show, questions about the show and the scheduling of the show. Again, you can make submissions for the film awards, whether they're live award vote nominee submissions or winning ballot submissions. Those can be done by email only. You can ask questions about the awards by social media, but you cannot make submissions by social media. Again, submissions only by email only. Email address for the show, itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search in the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. And then make sure that you like our fan page so you can interact with us and know what's going on with the show and all the important stuff that you'd want to do if you want to be interactive with us on the show and know what's going on with the show. So yeah. Again, follow us on social media to get the latest information about the show, any last minute postponements or delays, or any other information about the show, or just interacting with us to do that. Make sure you follow us on social media so you can do all of that and more. There are 2 ways to keep up the show. Look back at class episodes. You can stream us anytime on YouTube. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on YouTube. When you do, you'll be taken to our show page where you'll find every episode we've ever produced since we came to YouTube. I started streaming on YouTube back in mid-October 2015, so every one of those episodes is available for you to stream anytime you want on YouTube. Just search In the Spotlight 411. If streaming is not your thing, we prefer to listen to us on the go. Listen to us on the go. Just listen to us in general, or maybe instant older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Search In the Spotlight 411. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. You'll have access to every episode ever produced in nearly 8 not near the 8 years we've been doing this show, because it is a full 8 years now. Every episode we've ever done is on there, and all transferred to audio format for your convenience. Every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run, from our Talk Shoe run, and of course all of our YouTube episodes transfer into audio format for your convenience. Every episode we've ever done in audio format for your convenience. All episodes are on there in order from the most recent, that being tonight's way back to the oldest, way back when we started in October 2010. All of our episodes available for you to listen to anytime you want. Maybe you're a long-time fan, wants to check out an episode from way back when, or a new fan wants to check out something like that for the first time. You just want to keep up on episodes, or you missed an episode, you want to watch listen to an episode again. Whatever the case may be, you can do all that and more on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. So again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Your ways to keep with the show and look back at classic episodes. Search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, just search for In the Spotlight 411. Shout out to my co-host Mike, not here tonight, but he'll be back with us on Tuesday, so I hope everything's going well for him. So shout out to him. I want to thank myself and our great soul, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. Those that will be watching, listening to this later, thank you to you as well. Again, my apologies for starting late. I said, people already been asking me in the email back, what happened? Basically what happened was I just ran incredibly late. That's what's been happening a lot lately. I really, again, it's very difficult sometimes. There's things that happen at home. You got a daughter, you got a wife, and you're trying to get things done. Sometimes things take longer than they should. It's really more of a personal thing. Sometimes, like on Tuesday, it was a combination of personal and technical problems. So that was what happened on Tuesday, but we'll get better with it. And I think I have every confidence that things will improve over the next couple of weeks. So it won't be as much of an issue, but we'll keep striving for 9 o'clock, and at least if we're late, it starts at 10 and then we're off, not as late. So, but yeah, so that's the reason why, for those that are wondering. I just didn't want to get into it on the air, but, and I'm still not really getting into it because I just don't really need to, but I really probably should have made an announcement and said, hey, 10 o'clock is when we're starting, but things were just so busy I didn't get the chance to, so my bad. But at least on Tuesday I got a message out to you all, which is the right way to do it. So I'll try, at least if I'm going to be late, try to do better with that, at least get an announcement out to you all. So thankfully most of you figure it out and assume and know the drill by now, but still I should probably let you all know and remind you. So it'll give you something to kind of hold on to, be like, okay, yeah, it's 10 o'clock, folks. This, so you all don't sit there for an hour and wait and not knowing what's going on. So I always try to let you all know what's going on from now on, so that that way I'm a little bit more professional about it. Okay. So with that being said, that is it for this week. So next week again, we'll kind of do what we've been doing, spreading our topics over both episodes on Tuesday and Thursday. So obviously next week we'll have a Super Bowl preview. We'll do our usual stuff, college basketball, any other big baseball stuff we have to talk about. Any other sports stuff we have to talk about, we'll talk about. Wrestling, we'll review the Royal Rumble, looking back at Raw and SmackDown, any other big wrestling stuff we have to cover. Entertainment, box office beat. Hopefully I'll have some stuff to offer for TV highlights, because I haven't had that in the last few weeks. Any entertainment stuff we have to cover, we'll cover. I'll try to get those film award statistics to you all next week. Remember, next Thursday is the deadline for the winning ballots for the film awards and also for the live award nomination submissions. Both of those are due at 9 o'clock p.m. next Tuesday, January 31st. So make sure you get those in by then. So all that coming up next week, and the week after that is film awards week. So big stuff coming up. All right, so until next week, I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great weekend, and a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here next week for for 2 shows, both Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So until Tuesday night, have a good night, everybody. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you Tuesday.